right, welcome back to another podcast, New Legacy Podcast. I have Clinton Dye with me here today. I met him at Mansion Mastermind 5 around May time.
Yeah.
West Watson Mansion Mastermind. And after I met you, I was like, besides having the same haircut, we have a lot in common, military background.
Right.
And like when I first met him, he was like, hey man, what's your struggle? What's this? What are you trying to do? Boom, boom. And like right away, he dropped like gems on me. Like he mentored me in like the last 20 minutes we had at the mastermind.
Right.
Closing out. And you said a lot of profound thing that I was like, wow, he's been through some deep stuff.
Yeah, for real.
And then you open up a little bit and you're like, hey, I've been through a lot of pain. And, one of the biggest incidents in my life where your hero's journey started was when your mother shot your dad.
That's right.
In front of you when you were like very, very young. And it's a very traumatic experience at that age when you don't know how to process all that emotion.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, so like I want to get to know you. I want the audience to know like the amazing person that you are and the journey that you are on and how you're trying to impact and change the world for the better.
All right, we'll hit it. So Clinton Dye, the Militant Mind, you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Instagram San Diego _Clinton1. My story starts off like a lot of people. I grew up poor, extremely poor, where in the household we didn't have electricity. Oftentimes we didn't have food. My mother was a bartender, a waitress, and my father was a plumber. Domestic violence in the house. Grew up in Houston, Texas. So at 5 years old, my father's coming into the house. He's a hard drug user. My mom's a hard drug user. Cocaine, heroin, weed, alcohol. That was a daily occurrence in my neck of the woods. Domestic violence on the regular in the house. I was fortunate enough they didn't turn their domestic violence onto me. I was never really beat as a child or anything crazy. But that doesn't mean we didn't go through things. So at 5 years old, my dad comes into the house, smacking my mother around, shaking her down for some cash. He wants to get a fix. He's overdue. My mom basically, I hear in the back getting smacked around, right? The whole thing. Come around in my underoos, my little Superman underwear and shit. I'm coming around the corner like I'm gonna do something at 5 years old, right? Because it sounds like people are, having an issue back there. You're a kid, you can't help it. So my mom had enough, right? She'd been smacked around one too many times. My mother pulls out a .38, shoots my dad right in the chest at 5 years old, just like you could imagine in the movies. Gunshot, you can taste the gunpowder. I mean, just telling the story right now, I can feel the energy from the room. Blood on the wall. My dad's holding his chest. His lungs filling up with blood. He's screaming, right? Stumbles his way out of the house and then, makes his way to the hospital. I think he was within like 30 minutes of dying when he was at the hospital. And this was, one of the biggest domestic violence events in the household at the time. So I'll pause right there for questions. We can hit it right there.
So that traumatic event, like did
Right.
your school, you fell off in school or like after that, like how was life after that? Like what happened after the incident?
So me for school, I struggled in school for probably the first 7 to 8 years of my life. I wasn't really interested. I was slow to develop with reading. Obviously, there was trauma in the house, so school wasn't really an interest. I had basically what you'd consider a participation grade in school from like kindergarten through like first, second, third grade. So there wasn't really school for me. I didn't take tests. I didn't really do much. They just pushed me through the grades. Obviously, all that shit going on in the house. You just can't focus, right? You weren't dealing with the trauma. There wasn't really therapists or child counselors or really anything to handle that situation when I was a kid. I'm a little bit older than some of the people in the room. Mm-hmm. In most rooms, I'm one of the older guys that I go into. So they didn't do that when I was a child. So my education suffered due to the environment I was in, and then the trauma in the house, and no parental guidance whatsoever.
Wow.
From daylight hours. Remember, my mom was a bartender, so she's not home at night. My dad's out on the streets chasing the next bag, trying to get his next fix. He's never there. So I would come home from school from 5 to 7 and 8 years old. There was not an adult in the house at all. My sister was stripping at the time, so she didn't live in the house. I had no other siblings. So at 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, I'd come into the house. There would be no parents, no food, no nothing. My mother would get home at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., and that's when she would feed me dinner. So obviously there's no one to help school studies, help with the spelling test, or anything. So my whole education early suffered a lot.
Did you have like anyone to lean on through all that pain? Or?
There was nobody. There was no grandparents. There was no family. There was nothing. I mean, it was a toxic family. So my sister's in her own shit, right? She's a stripper at the time. So I don't even remember the place that she worked at. So she's not around. Her children are little. There was just nothing. It was just me stuck inside that toxic environment over time, working me through the system of violence at an early age.
Wow. And then what did that lead to?
So, in my life, in around that things, when you're exposed to certain things, it's very common, and it was common for me, is that you adopt those behaviors. So you're a product of your environment. People say that all the time. So violence in the household leads to violent acts. As a human, typically, it takes a huge amount of energy to flip that switch and behave differently. If you don't know another way, that's just the way people behave. So in and around organized crime, drug dealers, deals gone bad, all those kinds of things. I like in the house, when my dad was out of the house, I remember my mother dating guys that would have listening devices in the house for like counter intel, for like they're pushing weight in the house and there's like hiding money in the walls kind of shit and like stuff underneath the carpet, listening to people. They'd buy like speedboats cash. These kinds of guys were around. So it was just craziness. So they normalized just that next level of really bad behavior, like really early. And then you move into my young adulthood. You know, my dad got himself clean when I was like right around 7 to 10. And then I eventually moved with my dad and then had to rework my behavior in, moving in the direction of positive.
Yeah. And then, obviously they know we're veterans. Like, where did the Marine Corps come from? Like,
Yeah.
did they got you with the commercial or what?
No, they didn't get me with the commercial, man. So in my family, there's no military background whatsoever. There's no veterans on either side. My parents were hippies, so they were anti-war. They came from, the Vietnam era. My dad was a draft dodger. The whole shebang. Like, if you could write a story about my family, it was like a blend between Alfred Hitchcock, Stephen King, and Jerry Springer. That was really, really my life, early age. So in my young teenage years, all that bad behavior, I basically idolized that hustler life, drug dealer life, the violent life. I wasn't the best of kids, and I got onto the wrong group and started to behave in the wrong way. There was a couple things that led up to situations in my life where I had to make some tough choices as my young adulthood. I was allegedly charged with possession of drugs at a young age, a fair amount, which resulted in mandatory federal time, 67 to 97 months at 19 years old. So essentially, Super Bowl Sunday, I had a little walk down with the police and walked out the front door of the building after some work with the attorneys, and inside of 30 days, my attorney had talked to the district attorney, and the outcome was the district attorney happened to be a previous JAG officer. And the gentleman's agreement between my attorney and the DA was, if your boy doesn't end up inside the Marine Corps in the next 30 days, we're going to court, and best of luck.
Damn.
That was it. So I found myself inside the Marine Corps in like 3 weeks. Stood on the yellow footprints. I enlisted out of San Antonio. Stood on the yellow footprints in San Diego. And there my journey into the active duty Marine Corps basically started. Now, since I was partied to aggressive lifestyle at a young age, violence wasn't unheard of. I was in organized sports. I played football through high school and late middle school. So organized sports, hard work in Texas, 2-a-days, delayed gratification, turning a profit from very little dollars, creating something out of nothing, keeping the lights on when you don't have options was just a way of life. So when I ended up in the Marine Corps, the good side and the potential of my personality just ignited from that point forward.
What did the Marine Corps give you at that moment of your life when you had like no hope and you were like, hey, fucking do this or go to jail? Besides like, the only option you have, did it like give you any new discipline, any like thing that someone can take away right now and apply?
Yeah, so the Marine Corps gave me an outlet to focus my negativity in the right direction. So oftentimes we idolize our veterans as being heroes. They do good things, but in reality is they're focusing violence towards violent people, right? And it's called war. We look at one side as heroes and the other side as the enemy. In reality, you're just facilitating violence with more violence, right? So as a young adult, we're in the United States, post 9/11, 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, they called us Generation Kill. Hyper violent. All our video games are violent. All our video games are Call of Duty, Ghost Recon. They're all first-person shooters. All our music's violent. We have gangster rap. We have grunge metal. We have just these layers of violence that's building up in our young adults. So the Marine Corps was a great outlet to just unleash all that negativity that had built up in my life onto humanity. It was essentially an outlet for me to release all my negativity onto the world. It really was. But the Marine Corps instilled a lot of very positive things for me. They taught me how to get up early. They taught me how to work hard, physical fitness. I kept my body tight for 9 years. I had a perfect PFT score. I mean, I was always the top in my classes, top in my unit, top in my job. I learned quickly, lots of repetitions. So the Marine Corps gave me discipline and focus. And then it combined that discipline and focus to mastering a skill, which then I could play three-dimensional chess and tactics on the battlefield. And that's really what I did. I didn't have a job where I sat at a desk and I'm, filling out paperwork to go hand to someone to go, order a part. Like I had a job where we actually conducted war. I mean, I'm in charge of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in assets, real time. We're targeting enemy, dropping bombs. I have troops and crew. There's lots of responsibilities. The Marine Corps taught me how to execute in the harshest of conditions very quickly.
What was your job in the Marine Corps?
So my job in the Marine Corps was an air defense controller. That job is responsible for controlling aircraft forward of the air traffic control. So basically within a certain range of the forward line of troops, and we target out the aircraft. We keep the airspace clean. We do all the radar detection and assignment of targets in the weapon system, and it's crazy. So as the Marine Corps division moves forward, our tactical control shelters move forward and our radars move forward with the division as they're invading, say, Baghdad or Iraq or Afghanistan. And we stay close to the forward line of troops so we can maintain that line of sight with the aircraft and the targets on the ground. So massive lists that come through. For example, like an attack like Iraq, we have suspected weapons of mass destruction, provincial mayor, bridges, high-value targets, assets, troop in the open, tanks, Republican Guard, infantry, all that shit. Just do all day, every day. As fast as you could talk on the radio is as fast as I'm controlling aircraft on targets, real time, every day for months at a time.
How long were you in the Marine Corps?
I did 9 years active duty. I have 4 combat tours, invasion in Iraq, invasion in Afghanistan, and 2 follow-on tours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and then I have a 13-year defense contractor career after the Marine Corps, which landed me back in Afghanistan, Iraq, Kuwait, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. The list goes on and on and on and on.
Wow. So you're like a Middle East expert.
I won't say I'm a Middle East expert, but I've probably spent, I don't know. I don't define expert these days. I've spent my entire adult life supporting the war on terror.
Yeah.
So from 19 years old, I'm 44, 25 years of my life, I've spent fighting the war on terror, supporting the war on terror as a United States citizen all over the globe. So I don't know if I'm an expert, but I have almost 7 years, day for day of my life inside a combat zone.
Wow. Well, thank you for your like service, and like you're the tip of the spear at that point.
Yeah, we do some
Um,
crazy shit.
Yeah, you're actually in the battlefield.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot. I've had rockets land near me. I've had bombs go off. Sitting in the ground with artillery just rattling inside your body all through the night. Just sounds like a thunderstorm. You just hear it. You don't know whose it is, where it's coming from, where it's going. You just know that the earth is shaking from the artillery.
Wow.
Crazy. That's what war is. It's crazy.
Well, is there like any method or like ways you kept yourself, sane the whole time?
Nah, so not really. Just execute. When you're executing, when your life is on the line, it's easy to execute. There's two types of people in this world. When the going gets tough, they collapse. Or there's people when the going gets tough, they excel. I happen to be the person when something bad goes on in life, it doesn't matter what it is, in combat, doesn't matter, the world kind of disappears. And there's just this calm. And it's peaceful, and I can see the path out of the problem or the solution as clearly as you could see the lighted ground in like the movie theater or on the airplane. It's just so clear for me. Everything goes away. There is no family issues. There is no money and bills. There is nothing other than the path. And that's it. And that's how I see all of life. Is I can silence everything and really focus singularly on what plays I need to make to get to go where I need to get done. Yeah. So I'm playing real life chess with human lives, assets, and tactics all the time. So my method of management from that was execution. I read a lot of books. In my downtime, I'd read a lot of tactical books, The Art of War. The list goes on and on and on with the books that I read, really trying to understand my enemy, how they think, the previous mistakes that had been made tactically in the region with the Taliban and various freedom fighters in the region, really understanding how they think. I think as anybody that's in war or anybody that's going to get into the boxing ring, it is very important to understand the mind of your opponent. Like, and how they think, how committed are they, what matters, what offends them, what are their passions, how they view you and view the world around them is super important, so that you can, one, respect the enemy's boundaries and figure out how to exploit them any way possible. They're all humans. They all have an inherent weakness, and what they love can be their greatest weakness. So you just have to understand that, I think, as a person that's been in war for so many years of their life. Absent understanding your enemy is to me, is futile.
Yeah, so like in the military, we play a lot of psychological warfare.
Right.
Like, what is an example that you could share with the audience today?
Oh, no, this is horrible. All right.
Like you walk into a room,
Oh,
right?
my God. This is crazy. This is crazy. So, when I was in Afghanistan, one of the intelligence group, so they have Army and different lettered agencies from the government. So there's Army intel gathering people and interrogators, and then there's government, and then oftentimes there's like contractor experts from different countries, right? And they do different techniques based on the rules of any situation. So if a guy's bad, they might ship him off to some other country, so that country can not be held to the standards of the United States under their interrogation or questioning methods. So one of the stories, this is kind of crazy, but this is true. Forgive me. So when they bring in these guys, these terrorists from all over, the Taliban or whatever, so they bring them in, they have to do a cavity search, right? So they're going to talk to them, whatever. Their cavity search has to happen regardless, right? They could be hooping. They can have something up their rectum or whatever. Like intel, it doesn't matter. Like they have to look. So the Taliban at the time is terrified of African Americans, right? Mm-hmm. So my girl, one of the girls I knew was in the Army. She's like, hey, you got to come in here, check this out. It's going to be crazy. We're going to just get this guy, bring him, we're going to onboard him, and you're just going to see how we do it. So they have this guy. He hasn't had a lot of sleep, whatever. They get him in there. And it was the first time that I had really looked in an enemy, like in the eye, like eye to eye, in the same room with the Taliban, and just see like the clear hatred of everything we stood for. Like when you get a look from someone at a restaurant, like just a horrible look, you could see it. Like they don't really like you, but you could definitely see, I could feel the energy just radiating off this fighter. He wasn't about anything we stood for. He was looking at us like we were the devil alive. Like the hatred, just clear hatred inside this man's gaze into the room was very obvious. So they have him cuffed up. He can't see everything around him. He's like pretty cordoned off. There's guys to either side. There's this ginormous black guy. Remember I said the Taliban was scared of African Americans. So a lot of people in the service overseas, they're just crushing the weights, taking the supplements, they're taking creatine, they're working out 3 times a day, eating 6 meals a day. There's some big boys in the military, 220, 250, massive men. This guy reminded me of like a middle linebacker for the NFL. He was a massive brother, right? So he's standing over there with his hand on this dude's shoulder. They're talking down this guy like, hey, do you have anything you want to, tell us? We can make all this stop. You just keep working with us. And then the interpreter is going back and forth in Arabic, Farsi, I believe. And, he's not budging, right? So they have to do a cavity search anyway. So you have the medical staff. They have this ginormous brother like over him. And they basically have the guy like cuffed, like stretched out over the table. Right, so he's cuffed down his legs. He's basically cuffed over the edge of the table, butt out, right? So the interpreter was telling him that the black guy was going to do some other things other than check for contraband in his rectum, right? So they had him all worked up, and they're like, all right, you can tell us what you want, right? Or you could play hardball, but the big guy's going to have his way if you're not careful. Not true. He's just playing a mind game. So he doesn't bend. Doc goes in there, right, and the dude just starts just rattling off everything. The big guy puts his hand on the guy's shoulder, lets out a little groan, right, as the doc's going in there, check the cavity, all that kind of stuff. So it was all theater, right? None of that really happened. But that was my first experience with just witnessing an interrogation. I didn't do interrogation. That was no part of it. That was my only experience. Directly in the same room with the Taliban. I wasn't really even supposed to be there. It is what it is. So that shit really happened. That shit was really crazy. So like, that's a story.
Like I feel like you need to have like a tell-all book or something. It'll be like probably like big.
It's crazy. Like we'll write a book. Don't worry. Like it's coming.
Okay.
But yeah, there's just craziness.
You can't make up that story.
No, that was for real, man. That was for real. So it was an intel group from the Army. Wasn't supposed to be there. I don't even remember any of their names, so
that's wild.
It's fucking crazy. It was crazy, bro. I knew a chick that was on J-Stars. She used to pass me like all these ground targets. So they'd fly over from England. J-Stars is like a ground target sensor, like a ground radar, and they're like listening to bad guys on different frequencies. They're doing all kinds of craziness. There was RJ, J-Stars, different stuff. So she would pass me like all kinds of targets like discreetly to our system. She'd get on the satellite phone. She'd message me on the chat. She's like, hey, we're over station right now. She's like, I'm going to send you a bunch of targets. Like, go kill these guys like now. Like, yeah, for real. And my system would like light up and there'd be like all these targets. And then I'd get assets over and we'd take them out. It's crazy. Assign all these targets. Like we would get like 30 discrete discrete targets where that she would want, because they'd be used to dealing with like stealth strike bombers, like the B-2, shit like that. So you pass them all these mensurated targets, like 30 of them, right? And it's just like doop, doop, doop. So they all got to be exact. So you're going through these lists, like assigning like GPS targets and like altitudes to like different bombs on this weapon system, like these whole lists to these fucking guys. It's crazy. You know, you have like one character off, like, I don't know where that bomb went. So it had to be exact. You would check it, double check it, triple check it, get someone else, take another look at it, and you don't have a lot of time. So you're like going quick.
So you're the guy that make it rain from the sky, huh?
I don't press the button. We were just the middleman, the middle agency between different assets. We controlled the air. So we had direct access to the command element, which would assign targets. At the highest level, we had direct contact with different sensors, and I just happened to know that girl that was on that plane. So she was like sending me cool shit, like directly, like real time.
Oh wow!
Like during the war of Afghanistan.
So you were in a war zone for an extreme long amount of time.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure that took a lot on you.
Yeah. Ruined my life.
What, it took your hair like at that time, or?
Oh, I lost my hair at 20 years old.
Oh.
I shaved it. I shaved my head one time. That shit never grew back. And it was the only person that was bald at the time that was cool was Bruce Willis. So I was like, Bruce Willis is dating Demi Moore, and I heard Bruce Willis say this thing one time, is that someone's like, how do you feel about losing your hair? And Bruce Willis, without missing a beat, said, the less hair I have, the more head I get. And I was like, that's the motherfucker I want to be. I was like, I shaved my head instantly, and then we had Vin Diesel, and now it's The Rock. Now it's the coolest thing ever to have no hair. So it's like, fuck the world.
You
Who
hear
needs
that,
hair?
Louis?
You're shaving your shit next, bro. I'll go get my razor, bick you down.
Okay, so.
Yeah, so the toll of my life, all that warfare. So you could imagine, I'm stuck between doing combat shit.
Yeah.
And then I'm married. I have a daughter at the time.
Wow.
Right, so I have a family here and then war here. Stepping between those two worlds, I could never really manage. So you would come home, and all your people want, your people, my people, everybody's people, it doesn't matter. They just want their person. That's it. They've been living this life. Their life has continued, but your life was on hold.
Right.
So you come back, I have one foot in war, my mind's still stuck there. Like, I can't even drive a car. Like, I have PTSD. And, you know, there's people that have way worse experiences in combat. But just coming back from having that very structured life of combat and 15, 18-hour days and doing what you do and you're trained to do, and then coming back to the real world, I couldn't even manage driving a car.
Wow.
I couldn't handle the sensory overload of going down the highway at 50 miles an hour. So that's just a very basic example of how you can handle one stress system, but you place a human into a new stress system and they can't manage it. It would take me weeks to like figure out how to handle just the most basic shit of life, like going to the porcelain bathroom, right? Taking a real shower without, with warm water, driving a car to and from work, like managing. So this is what I would do for years, and I never even told my spouse, is that I had to do it even as a contractor to survive, is I would come home early. So I would purposefully lie and say that I was going to be home on X date. One, so that they wouldn't get their hopes up and then you not deliver to the date, which is detrimental to a family that hasn't seen their significant other in months. But then I needed that time to decompress, even as a contractor. Like, I just couldn't handle the stresses of regular life. So I'd come back and like hang out like at a resort for like 2-3 days. And I would just go to the gym. I would go for walks like throughout the day. I would read. I would just really do nothing other than reintegrate back into society because I couldn't deal with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the only way. It was like I wouldn't say I was going to kill someone, but handling like conflict resolution didn't exist. Handling the day-to-day stresses didn't exist. So being around people, like I didn't have an interest. I mean, classic PTSD. I had almost no interest to even being around the family, like none. Just like emotionally, I guess, broken.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were a contractor, and now you're on a path to being, or are you already a life coach right now?
I've always been a life coach. What the fuck, man? Come on, seriously. Now, I've been helping people forever. Like, I've always been good with wisdom, good with knowledge, and I like to share and help people. Um, so, transition onto my life. I get out of the Marine Corps, um, 28 years old, so 2009, 28, 29.
Mm-hmm.
I get a bachelor's degree in software engineering, a master's degree in software engineering, and then PhD level education in algorithms, analytics, shit like that. I didn't finish the PhD. I'll probably never finish. It was definitely boring, not exciting. Led me down that path of contractors, being an engineer. We push forward in my life. So 20 years of combat. We have the I hate to say the word pull out, but the exit, since we don't do that, but the exit,
Retrograde.
the retrograde or the exit of the troops in Afghanistan back into the United States. So we ended that war, basically just left. My war was the moment that, so our asset, our communication asset that I worked for supported communications for combat troops on the ground. It was a theater level asset. We had 7 airframes, 24/7 support of bridging capability and communications, connections, real time from an aircraft to ground troops, satellites, all kinds of cool shit. So we have 7 aircraft, 6 at that time, and we supported the retrograde of those troops completely out of the country. So our assets overhead supporting those troops as they're moving from base to base, back to Bagram, back to Kandahar, and then out of the country completely. And that's what we do. Our asset could be in Ukraine, it could be in Iraq, could be anywhere. But when that last troop left the war was over for me. So my entire adult life and everything that I had done, I had like an identity disconnect, right? Like, war's over. I had paid the highest of prices with managing that stress and that combat stress in my life. And it cost me a lot. So at that point, due to all the negative things I experienced, I was using alcohol, I was using drugs, I was using pills to manage the PTSD of my entire life. Of lower disc degenerative disease. So I'm in pain. I'm emotionally in pain. I'm using alcohol and drugs to manage that. Obviously, that's not going to improve your life. And eventually, it resulted in my physical decline, my mental decline, the relationship with my wife at the time and my daughter, ruined that. And I needed to basically recreate everything that I stood for so I could, 1, live a healthy life, and 2, on the rare occasion, rebuild those relationships that I had destroyed through use of drugs and alcohol, and then all that combat exposure. I mean, I had a lot of self-work that I needed to go through to come back to normal. We'll leave the term normal as a very loose term in the modern day, but normal for me is like barely functioning for most people.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what I did. We end up with, I leave the corporate environment in January 17th, 2023, November 2022, I stopped drinking alcohol. I get a life coach. Wes Watson is, my coach. And of all the people in the world, he was the only guy that I could respect. He was alpha enough, he was dominant enough, and he was living the life of high discipline that I respected. I was like, I need some part of that personality to help me get to where I need to go. I need to get off this drink, boom. I need to get off the drugs, boom. I need to stop chasing distractions with sports and girls and all that shit. And I need to put in a lot of work internal to get me where I want to go. And I did. So I left the corporate environment January 17th, I believe, of 2023. I started online coaching. So I started a business with online coaching, personal development, based on everything I learned from the military, my life, getting through trauma, being a hard motherfucker. And then helping with Wes Watson's help, helping me unleash the best parts of my personality of discipline and focus and being better. And then I started a media company. Secondary to that coaching thing, I picked up a camera and basically started making videos for fun. And then people started asking me to shoot their videos. I was like, I didn't even think it was good. I was like, why would you want that? And they were like, it's dope. And I was like, if you say so. And I just like point and shoot. I watched YouTube videos. I asked friends. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. So I started these two six-figure businesses within 45 days of each other. And within 30 days of leaving the corporate world. And I was making a fair amount of money in that job.
Yeah.
So we'll say low, mid six figures, right? So several $100,000. I have passive income from real estate that I'll do just fine with. I was doing good. So I pivoted into this new space, and that's where my life is today. Like, boom, boom, boom. Believe in yourself. You can get there.
That's like, most people who step in the life coaching realm or the media realm too.
Right.
Like, their biggest fear is like getting on camera and speak and talk on camera. Like,
Yeah, it's horrible.
what is one advice you would give that someone could take away right now and apply and help them get better on camera? You film for a lot of amazing people.
A lot of people. So I film
Yeah.
for a lot of big people. Coach, we work and collab with big names. And here's the easiest thing in life, guys and girls. If the shoe fits, the shoe fits. Some of you guys that act like girls, we'll just call you a bitch. But that's the truth. If you can't get on camera and it terrifies you, or it's anything in life that you're scared of, the only way to get better at it, pay attention, look into my eye, is do fucking more of it. It doesn't matter. So if you suck at public speaking, speak in front of people more. Get in a Toastmasters group or speak in front of the fucking mirror. Talk shit to your girlfriend or boyfriend. It doesn't fucking matter. Just do more of it. So if you have a problem getting on camera, do more of it. The easiest way to start is have your friend, your partner, a family member on the other side of the camera, and you're just holding a conversation with them. They'll ask you questions. You'll respond back, just like a podcast, in real time in front of the machine. And then eventually there's no person behind the machine. It's you with a remote or something, and you're just talking with yourself like a goofball. And then you're analyzing how you're speaking, and you're like, oh, I sound like a fucking robot. You're like, no one talks like that. What the fuck, Clinton? Like, we could do better. And then you start doing voice inflection. Then you start adding more movement and animation. And eventually, through enough repetition, you'll be better on camera than almost everybody. And that's it. I read this thing. It was like, if you did, forgive me on the numbers, but it was like, if you picked up any hobby or skill, and you just did it for, I think it was something stupid, like 15 minutes a day for a year. In just 1 year, you're better than, I think it was like 90% of the entire planet in that skill in just 1 year by just doing 15 minutes a day. So it doesn't take like endless hours and hours of repetition to get good at something. It's just, you got to do it. And if you wanted to get really great at it, do it for 15 hours a day. If you have infinite amount of time, do it for 15 minutes a day. And it might take you a decade to get good at it. It's cycles, I believe it's a New Earth has a theory of 10,000 hours. So it takes 10,000 hours to reach mastery in any skill. So if you look at Mozart, you look at anybody that has any high level skill, Jim Carrey, it just goes on and on and on. How long did they have to cycle through repetition of failure, iterative improvement over time? And it's like a decade. It's like 10,000 hours, right? To short circuit that time, you have to do more of it. Do it on the weekends. Do it multiple times throughout the day, several hours a day. And you can take that 10,000 hours and shrink it from a decade of expert level down to maybe 3-4 years. Like when we follow Wes Watson, we're like, oh, how does this guy come out of nowhere? And like his content's so amazing in like 5 or 6 years. Well, the guy is on camera all day, every day. 15, 16, 18-hour, 20-hour days where he's working through sales, working through business, and on the camera between it. He has a humongous amount of repetition and cycle through all the skills of his business. So he's just done more cycles than the average person, even at the same range of business. So at 5 years, online coach or personal development coach, you compare them to his repetition of cycles, he might have double, triple the repetitions, and that's why he's perceived as so much better. It's just practice, guys.
Okay, so for you, you know, you mentioned you step into video photo services
Right.
recently, and that's not normal for a person that step into a new industry like that
Right.
to be shooting content for like one of the biggest influencer that currently is right now.
Sure.
Um, what magic sauce did you put in there? What did you do?
What magic sauce? So I'm gonna put you guys on game here.
Okay.
So how did I meet Wes Watson? I was a client of his. So I was watching his content for about 6 months or so, loosely. I wasn't a big influencer person. Didn't believe in it. I despised the internet and social media completely. I was like, oh, a bunch of fucking clowns. You see the girls with duck lips taking pictures of their food. All this bullshit is like, what the fuck, man? I don't want to live that life. I used to make fun of those people.
Yeah.
And then I ran into some very positive people on the internet. Bedros Keuilian, Wes Watson, Tony Robbins. You just the biggest David Goggins, like the biggest of names and personalities. I was like started actually listening to what they were saying. So 6 months later, I got my life as far as I could, and I needed help. I was in the problem. I couldn't see the solution, right? So I was like, I knew a guy that was a client of Wes Watson. And he lived that life. Beautiful chick, penthouse, millionaire, driving around a Lamborghini. I was like, yo, homie. I was like, who was that? You know, that coach that like hooked you up and turned you from this cocaine snorting, fucking womanizing asshole to this really dope dude with a badass chick living that life that probably every dude in America wants to live, for the most part. Every straight dude, by the way, wants to live that life. So I was like, Jesus, I was like, please put me on game. Who's your guy? Oh, it's Wes Watson. Like, don't ask him how much, just sign up. And that's how I do business with my people, is that when they give me a referral, like, you just hook. You don't haggle price. You don't do nothing. I said, Wes, I need fucking help. Send me the link. That was it. So he did. So I bought his coaching program. I wasn't fully in shape. In hindsight's 2020, that was probably a mistake, right? But I had all these other life skills. I was like, well, I'm good at all these areas. I need to get up my fitness. I need to level up in these areas to really represent what I stand for at the best. So I started working on it. I went to one of his masterminds, 10K. So 10 racks, a bag, 10K to get into a mastermind. I went to the first one of Wes Watson. I had only known the guy for 6 weeks, but I knew if I could get around those entrepreneurs, those other coaches, those other people with different businesses and skills, that it would inspire me to do better and be better. Get myself in front of Wes Watson, not to impress the guy, but I wanted to understand his energy in his mind. Like, how does this guy get up at 3 a.m., handle all his business, go from a penthouse to a mansion? Now he's buying supercars every time I fucking blink. Like, I wanted to understand the mind of that guy, right? Like, how could I take some of his knowledge, mix it up in my body, and then like apply it to my world? Okay, so I did one of those. I was like, all right, I was the second weakest guy on the burpee port. All these guys are fucking ripped. They're all fitness guys. They're super handsome. They got it. They're doing 30, 40, 50K. Some of them doing 100K a month in sales, whatever the fuck. So Brad Dunn from Reliant Fitness, Life Like Jake, Frank Romano, like all these different guys. Hector Bravo, like these guys are all about it, man. And I'm like the worst guy on the burpee court. Like the last time I did burpees was as a CrossFit competitor like a decade prior. Fucking hate burpees, bro. Fucking hate it. The C2 rower, the assault bike, and fucking burpees. God damn it, kill me. Right? So it is. I would literally like be praying for death on the burpee course. I was like, God, fuck you. Just kill me when you're ready. And I would just go and like I'd hear my heart ringing in my ears. I'm out of shape, 220 pounds. I'm like, fucking dude, we're gonna die here. If I'm gonna die in this fucking burpee court in front of this fucking dude and all these savages. That's it. So I went to one, like nothing. In and out. Went back to a second mastermind, so dropped another 10 stack on Wes Watson's program, right, to get in around more influencers and show my progression. I wanted to actually show the evolution of man to like the clients, to myself, and to the world. So you see one of the most out of shape guys on the court, and I was still in a little bit of shape. Let's not kid yourselves. I was in better shape than almost all you out there, so fuck off. So that's my out of shape. And I go to the second one, I'm clearly not out of shape anymore. Like, and then I actually got on camera and tell a little bit of my story. So that's it. That's where it kind of ended. So I had 2 exposures to that guy, to Wes Watson and the group. I had been making so I picked up the camera, I got the Sony A7R. Everybody fucking asked me, what do you shoot with? What do you process with? It's not the goddamn camera, and you guys all know it. They make movies with iPhones, so shut up. It's not the camera, okay? So I started doing videos for other influencers around that space, just for free. Like, I liked it. I needed an excuse to practice. I wanted to understand the art of capture, how to edit videos, and how to tell a story with the camera, because I was a big movie person through my life. So I grew up on Aliens, you know, Titanic, Avatar, you know, all these really great storytellers with James Cameron and just different people. So I always respected that industry. I saw every major blockbuster always with my dad. That was one thing that we did. And that's the same thing I still do with my kids. But long story short is, eventually, through enough exposure and investment and me like basically proving that I'm on program, like I'd fixed my life to myself and the world, an opportunity came up to where Wes Watson's camera person, his editor and camera person, like canceled on the guy. Literally, the dude just like with short notice up and moved cities. He had like his dream offer where he was like filming supercars and shit, and he just like dipped, like no notice. So Wes Watson has a video that goes out on Saturday every week for his lifestyle. So it's the masterminds and anything that he does in his life. That's where his YouTube video drops for his lifestyle. So it's Thursday, bro. I get a message from Wes Watson, and we're not like close, right? We're not homies. The dude's running, you know, multiple millions a month. He's fucking busy. So like, I don't message people like that. I try not to, right? Even though you would like to, like, what's going on in the world? Like, he don't have fucking time for little old Clinton, right? Like, that dude's busy. Like, go help the world and whatever. Like, I'll keep making content, kind of thing. So the dude like messaged me. He's like, yo, what you got going on today? Can you shoot my editor dipped on me. Can you shoot a video? I'm like, how long is the video? He's like, it's my YouTube video. I just need something to get something up. I'm like, bro, the longest video I've ever shot is 10 fucking seconds. Right? I was like, now you want me to do a 7-minute YouTube video, and I have like this much knowledge of the camera and the editing software. Like, I had like no experience. And I had made a couple viral videos that were pretty dope. Did 600, 700,000. Like, just because it literally took me all day to do these videos. And like fucking with the shit, like on YouTube videos, like on my phone, like doing the thing to make a dope video to give it to some guy for basically free. Make them some money. So he's like, don't worry about it. Just show up, press record, put something up, and it's all going to be okay. No stress. He said no stress like 50 fucking, not 50, but a good several times. So, all right. So I'm like, all right, I got to get a video up for fucking Wes Watson. I call my boy. I'm like, hey, man, this, you know, ginormous guy wants me to shoot a video over here. Have you seen his shit? Like, he's yelling and screaming at the fucking camera. I was like, I don't want to be that guy getting yelled at, screamed at for fucking up the record button, right? I was like, fuck it. I'll do it. And I just wanted to help him. I was like, all right. I was like, dude needs help. Like, I'm supposed to be helping people. Like, you don't always get paid for helping the world. That's okay. Like, I didn't even ask. So I just showed up, my little bag, my Sony A7R, my G30, my 35 millimeter 1.4 lens, G Master. I'm there, and I show up, and I don't have a filter because I've never shot anything outside of the gym. So it's super fucking bright, so I can't shoot out in the real world. So it's just gym video in the car, super overexposed. It was trash. But I edited it up, took me like all that day, the next day, and I just barely made the upload in time for his edit staff to do the thumbnails, the the captions, all that shit that they needed for YouTube. So that's how I basically fell into that opportunity. I didn't ask. I think I had offered once to like come film like 30 minutes a day for 30 days just to get enough footage to experiment with like attention and hooks and visual things for like the algorithm. And he was like, "No, I'm so busy, like, don't worry about it." And I never asked again. And then eventually an opportunity came up inside that same month where he needed some help and he liked what I did. Fast forward, like a week later, I didn't say anything of it. I delivered the video. I thought they had help. I was like, "Oh, this is Wes Watson, his personal assistant." Like, they have like staff and people that like handle all that shit. So I get a call from like his assistant at the time, and she's like, "Are you gonna shoot a video?" I'm like, "Shoot a video? What are you talking about? Like, I already shot the video. It's like up." They're like, No. You're the camera guy now." I was like, "What?" I was like, "You didn't think you were going to tell me?" Like, "Oh, we kind of wanted you to take the initiative." I was like, "I don't know about that." I was like, "I'll take the initiative with some superstar's fucking life."
Exactly.
Like
Wow.
just ask me that's what you want. Like, I can meet the expectations. So
Yeah.
I kind of fell into that situation where I just became the guy's camera guy for his lifestyle. He has like editors from like all over that send him stuff from the internet all the time. You send him stuff, I send him stuff. The world sends this guy stuff. But for the most part, I film all of Wes Watson's lifestyle videos and a good chunk of his stuff that's in and out his page. You'll see me floating around. You can tell. I think you can clearly tell my style when you see it. Be like, "Oh yeah, it's Clinton."
Yeah, I mean, you have a unique style, the way you come about it. Like, it's really hard to find good videographer and editor too. It's like
Right.
the hardest thing. Like, even for me with like a small media agency,
Yeah,
it's
it's
hard
hard.
to find good talent.
Yeah, it's artist.
Well,
It's the hardest thing.
expand on that, because we had
Okay.
an argument about this, and we're like,
All right.
no, you know.
All right, so here's the deal. So I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran. I manage staff, assets, advanced degrees.
Louis, listen
I
to
show
this.
up day in, day out. Like, okay, so that's how I operate. If there's a time, I meet the time. If there's a delivery, I meet the schedule. Like, I don't fucking care if I'm gonna die. Like, we're gonna stay up all night to deliver schedule. I've never missed one fucking delivery for Wes Watson. Ever. It's never happened. Now, have I made mistakes? Yes. Like, I've stepped on my junk more than enough times with just people in my whole life. But I've never missed a delivery. In our industry, I'll say our industry because now I'm part of the media industry, you have artists. And artists are all liberal artist people. They're feeling based. Nothing wrong with that, but they're not logical, schedule-driven people. Often, more times than not, they're not that personality. They're not the analytical engineer. I happen to be an analytical, logical human with 1 inch of artistic talent. Just 1 inch. So when you introduce my personality into that business model where it's feeling based, where camera people don't show up on time, they don't have gear,
Yep.
they don't deliver, they don't communicate, they hold their media hostage, right? It's so easy for my personality to come and excel. Yes, I've made some big mistakes behind the camera. Like, I forgot the audio one time filming Wes, and he's like dropping these bombs, and like my little audio battery had died on my mic, right? But there's no indicator anywhere on my camera in bright daylight that you can tell. I didn't have my earpiece plugged in. I didn't know, right? So like 7 minutes audio and like these bombs are dropping, and I'm like, oh shit, there's no fucking audio. Like, what the fuck? So I go over, change out the battery, get back into the game and do it. That shit happens. It's like a live event. You can't always have great batteries, but you got to recover. So in that's just my 2 cents on the industry. It's generally an industry where there's that relaxed rules and expectations of delivery. And I come from a highly professional environment where there's, as a defense contractor, I managed billions. My travel budget alone was $25 million. Just the travel budget alone for the organization I managed a year. Okay, so our contract, the contract that I wrote, I had 1.8 billion in contract deliverables over 3 years. Okay, so these are massive numbers. Don't miss fucking schedules when it comes to dealing with the government's money, these massive things. There's penalties. I just never could get around not delivering on time. So when I take that personality, slap it into the media company, I won't say it's easy to excel, but I have some very basic business behaviors of doing calls, meeting budget, delivering on time, showing up with the right gear. For the most part, that a lot of influencers at that, we'll just say a lot of the media companies, we'll just say the mid to lower cost range. So it's easy to separate myself from the herd quite rapidly, is just based on that professionalism that I have from the military, from running big businesses, and apply it to my personal business or my LLC. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Like, that is easy. So if I had to give anybody a word of advice to just the younger generation, you just show up on time with the right equipment, and you do your best to deliver on time. And if you know you're not going to deliver on time, communicate with your customer or client the moment you know you can't deliver. Like, we have some few issues. We project our deliveries 24 hours later than expected due to some unforeseen delivery problems. It could be anything from technical. Everybody's having issues with fucking Dropbox right now.
Oh, right now.
Like, no one in the industry is delivering on time. You know, you got to pivot to something different. Like, I actually shipped a fucking hard drive back to San Diego because I can't get the data. So I had someone ship me a hard drive because their Dropbox isn't working. Like, same day, ship it. Like, you got to work around it. So if you just do those basic things, develop the relationships in your business, view relationships as one of the most important components of your business, whether it's other relationships. See, Zune is a competitor, but we're actually team and partners in things. Like, when you view the relationships as just as important as the amount of money you make, your business is going to go through the fucking roof, right? I wholeheartedly attribute to my business to success is to building strong relationships, not my ability and my skills. My skills, there's people with 3 times the skills I have. There's people with 5 and 10 times the experience. I come through and I fucking crush them inside of 60 days. How did that happen? It was the relationships. Like, I'm not scared to go knock on fucking every door in the mall and sell them a product or service. I'm not. And these professional videographers and stuff have a lot of ego, and they refuse to do that. They won't show up on site unless they can get 10K. So they'll go hungry for the whole month for one job. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, go follow your passion and put your skills in front of people with a lot of money. The realtors, the art fucking galleries, the different business events. Like, go do that. Like, in just 1 month of coaching a young man, he signed like over $100,000 deal in media. One fucking deal, it was 110K.
Wow.
That's it. He had the skill. I looked at his skill. We'd worked together. We talked, basically mentor him like I mentor you. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you doing this? He had like excuse after excuse after excuse. He didn't believe in his own skill. I was like, dude, your skill doesn't get any better than you. You're like good for the next level. I was like, go put together a fucking team and go get that next deal. And he did. He literally, inside of 30 days, he just believed in himself. He got himself ripped. He got himself confident. And he went out and secured his next deal. And it was a 6-figure deal. In 30 days, he made more money in one deal than he's made ever in his whole career. And that's the power of coaching.
Wow. That's badass.
It's fucking the truth, man.
Yeah.
Like that. You can go from 0 to 100 in that if you just have the right stimulus, the right knowledge and expertise looking at your world and help you unlock the things inside of your mind that are blocking you. Like, I didn't believe I could start a business. I really didn't. I wasn't taught that. I didn't think. I had been basically a product of the Matrix for years. Like, we worked. Like, we go to college and we go to the job, and we go to a job we hate, and we put food on the table for the family we love, and we're miserable, and that's your fucking job as a man. You just die there. Like, that's it. That's it. And I did that. And eventually, like, I figured out, like, I was capped. Like, no matter what, like, I could only make $500,000, essentially $500,000 as an employee of some type, unless you're a doctor, attorney, or some sales fucking guru. Like, you're not making serious money. You're screwed. So I had to figure out ways to get creative to take my life to the next level, because I'm not a I'm not a 100K a year guy. I'm not a 200K a year guy. I'm a 500 million, multi-millions dollar guy. That's the way my mind works. That's my work ethic. That's my delivery. So that's where we're going. And the only way to get there is not through your skill. It's through business, products, and services. Like, you got to grow whatever it is that you are good at or would do for free.
Wow. Like, I love this podcast because I get to know
Yeah.
way more of you.
That's right. You learned some shit today.
Yeah, like, well, I've been to Mastermind 5, 8, and 9,
Right.
so I only get to see, like, 3 times.
3 times, bro.
Yeah.
I'm sad.
But every time I just, boom, knowledge. Bigger
Knowledge, dude.
Every time.
Old man. So, like, I view the world as tribal. We're tribal people.
Mm-hmm.
It is the wise person's job in every tribe to pass knowledge on to the next generation, right? So I've been through so many things in my life, from the trauma to overcoming addictions to combat trauma, relationship issues, just the list goes on and on and on. I'm at this point in my life where there's less in front than behind. Mm-hmm. In reality, like, that's the truth. Yeah. So in the next chapter of my life, I owe humanity knowledge and wisdom. That's the only thing that I can do to pay the debt I owe to humanity. This really is. It's the only thing that silences the PTSD. It's the only thing that silences all the trauma of combat, is helping other people. So that's why I selflessly help everybody that is ever exposed to me. I'll do it till the day I die, is to give back for everything I've taken from humanity. Wow. From all the lives, all the destruction, everything that I've been through. I just have to spend the rest of my life helping. So that's why it's so easy to give knowledge when it's needed. You see a good personality, they're not a fucking dirtbag. Like, you can see it. There's hope in this human. Like, all you have to do is pull this string, pluck this little thing off this tree right here, and a piece of fruit will grow. Mm-hmm. Humans are the same way. You plant the seeds, they already know the answers. They're already present inside of them. You just have to reveal the path, but they have to see it. So, like, when we spoke, you were saying some things, and I was like, run across country. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to. Like, I don't get on camera. Like, why the fuck not? Mm-hmm. Like, you know that you're setting an example for every Asian American and Asian immigrant that ever existed if you run cross country. Mm-hmm. You will go into Guinness books, you will hold your place in history, and you will convince every generation past you that you can. That is a superhero story, and I see it as clear as, the sun comes up in the morning. I can see the outcome already for the person. It's like, you're going to do it. Like, why can't you? There's no reason you can't. You just didn't necessarily believe you could get on camera, you could do these things. I can see it because I'm on the outside. Like, mm-hmm. So I see winners. I know what humans are capable for. We work hard. In reality, how much more will we leave on the table? 30%? 60%? Some motherfuckers are leaving 90% on the goddamn table every day. Mm-hmm. A minimum, Saturday and Sundays, they're losing 30% productivity by just fucking off.
Yeah.
Watching Netflix, binge drinking, watching sports all day. If that's the life they want to live, fucking great. But you're not. Imagine where their life would be if they had that productivity back. They would be 30%, at minimum 30% further. Actually, it's compounding interest. They're probably going to be 100% further because no one around them's doing it.
Yeah.
So they're just doing everything that the other people aren't willing to do, and you're going to pass them up in a blink. 2-3 years, you're going to look around and be like, where's all my homies? I passed up my homies in fucking 90 days, bro. Yeah. Everybody, the biggest experts in the industry, I passed them all up in like 3 to 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Completely passed them up. Like, nobody in my old business makes remotely the same amount of money as me whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Like that.
Damn.
And in 2 industries I'd never been in.
Yeah, so you like never been in, top of the game.
I have no experience. I have no formal education in media. Yeah. No formal education in coaching. I have a 3-month package, $7,500 from Wes Watson for online coaching. Mm-hmm. That's his gig. And then 2 masterminds. And I can tell you right now is that there's no book that Wes Watson hands you to be like, step by step, stop being an idiot, do this step. Okay, go to step 3B, like type this into your CRM. None of that shit exists. There's a whole playbook that you got to figure out. But Wes Watson planted that damn seed in my head. Wes Watson made Clinton understand is that there was so much more on the table that he was capable for. And once that fire lit, every day past that was like throwing gasoline on that fucking thing, because I didn't need him to tell me anymore. He just pointed out that I was being a moron and not living in my potential. And then I started to fuel that fire on my own because I believed. Just like Neo in the Matrix, there's no goddamn spoon. You create the spoon real time.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't exist. None of it exists. You create the reality inside your head first, and then it becomes real, right? So there's no spoon. The movie The Matrix is really just an analogy for life. That's it. The spoon doesn't exist. Once you believe the spoon doesn't exist and you know you can do anything, you can literally go achieve anything. It's because you believe. Manifestation, you're not sitting in a corner believing that, oh, money's going to rain out of the fucking sky. It doesn't really work that way. Is know that you obsess over the outcome and you're creating iterative futures over and over again in your head until your brain figures out the path that'll work, and then you put it into action. You did all the theory work inside your head. You just cycled through the failures in there until you hit the path to success, and now you go execute. So manifestation does work, but it doesn't work like you think it works. Is that you're creating the reality in your head to execute to. Like, you're not dreaming up a Rolex watch.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. You're like, no, I want a Rolex watch. I need to create the man that can afford a Rolex watch and treat it like his goddamn Apple Watch. That's what I did.
Yeah.
And I went out and bought a fucking Rolex watch. I bought 3 of them in the same week. Facts.
That's badass.
That's real dead. I lost 3 friends, though. So I have a Rolex for each friend I lost. Yeah, so those Rolexes cost me a lot more than $60K. Cost me 5 decades of friendship. But one of those motherfuckers wears a fake Rolex. I got the real one you wish you could have. I got the bag that all you motherfuckers wish you had. I earned it. So you don't want to join me on my journey? None of those assholes asked me how I got there. It would have been so much better if they had parked their egos, seeing me win, and just basically said, hey, dude, please tell me how you did it. Mm-hmm. Please, because that's what I do. I'll go to anybody. I'll go to Bill Gates. Bill Gates, who did you have to fuck over to get rich? He's like, Apple. I'm like, touche. You're the man. I knew it. I knew it. You just ask him, like, dude, go in there. Be like, oh, whatever you do is amazing. Like, what words of advice do you have to give? 30 seconds. What's your biggest piece of advice you give a young entrepreneur ever? Boom. And they'll give it to you. They don't care. Like, it's just words. So easy. But pay attention to what they say, because it's a lot of times those genius people drop those gems. They seem too simple to be real. Like when Wes Watson was dropping gems on me, like when I look back at all of our relationship and how long I known the guy, the dude was literally dropping life-changing gems so nonchalant and casually, because he does it all the time, and he's operating at such a high level that he doesn't even really view the knowledge of big. It's just like standard, right? And for me, someone that's not at that level, the knowledge often goes over their head. Right?
Yeah.
And I think we're all guilty of that. When you're talking to a little kid, you're like, oh, it's so simple. You just do this. For the kid that doesn't have that skill, it's like completely abstract to their comprehension. Mm-hmm. As adults, oftentimes the knowledge is above our comprehension. So when Elon Musk drops, when I get in the room with Elon Musk, and we're talking SpaceX and how there's no aliens, and like his journey of smoking weed for the first time with Rogan, shit like that. I'm like, hey, Elon, like, give me 3 bullets of what you would do if you were making $800,000 a year and you wanted to go to $100,000. Elon will drop that shit like it's nothing, right? And it'll probably go over little Clinton's caveman brain, right? Because he's operating at that multi-billion-dollar level. So for him, it's level 1, 2, and 3 level knowledge, and for me, it's level 10 knowledge. So it's like E equals MC squared. From Einstein, there were only 3 people on the entire globe that understood that theory. There was only 3 humans that existed that could comprehend the theory of relativity. That's it. So when you get that knowledge, it takes a while for it to sink in because it's so simple. They've given you E equals MC squared. They give you the theory of relativity broken down into E equals MC squared, and it seems too simple. Oh, get up early. Why would you get up early? Help me become a millionaire? Why would focusing on my body and fitness and nutrition and controlling food and vices help me to be successful? Like, how does that work? Well, not. It's not the acts that are really. It's really not the acts that are going to make you successful. It's everything that those acts replace, right? So losing a few hours of smoking weed. It's replacing watching football for 20 hours a week. It's replacing chasing girls every other night to go get some physical pleasures. When you replace all that, you come up with this pile of productive time. Now you could do something with your life. So if you take that 30 hours you recovered from being a douchebag and you start applying it to just mastering the camera and editing, 30 hours a week is basically a full-time employee in your spare time, right? So now I have a full-time job as an editor, and I'm watching YouTube videos till midnight, like figuring out, I don't know, how to import a goddamn file off a camera I've never used before, which is with no one showing me, right? So that's where it goes. And when you're self-taught, I think you're the best taught. Elon Musk is a self-taught engineer. He revises rocket design and engineering for interstellar travel, right, as a self-taught engineer. So self-taught isn't a bad thing. Microsoft, Bill Gates, self-taught. Zuckerberg, self-taught software engineer, right, web designer and hacker, right? So self-taught, self-taught, self-taught. I think if you have passion and you're self-taught, you rapidly become the best. Is because you have arguably an obsessive personality about that thing. And if you're obsessive about anything, you're going to get good at it.
Yeah. So as we come to the near end of our podcast, what is your next big move in the next 12 months?
Oh, my next big move. Oh, boy. So we don't give tactical strategy to the world of business. That doesn't work on the battlefield. That is Sun Tzu Business 101 war tactics. You don't telegraph your move in business. Why? It's because you can give your opponents the ability to flank you or shut you down. All right, so I'm operating in that small space of opportunity in the media company and coaching. So my big moves for the next year are just going to continue to do what I know works. So in scaling any company is called scale nightmare. It's the worst, right? At certain levels. It's very painful. I need to figure out how to take my companies from 6 figures to 7 figures. We'll go from low 6 figures to mids to highs. There's going to be some growing pains. We're running into time problems, right? Always. So a lot of them call it solopreneur. I don't really believe in that world. I didn't grow up in that. I always had large teams. I believe in networks and peers. So my biggest goal for this year, the next 12 months, is to solidify the next layers of the business and take my businesses from 6 to 7 figures. That's my goal annually. We're talking profit, not fucking overhead, right? So 6 to 7 figures in profits, that's a massive goal and leap. Reality will probably double or triple, right? But the opportunity to 10x it or 3x it is very real in this modern world. So I think I just need to focus on scale. We need to figure out where we can target ads. We can figure out how to do our reoccurring clients better. Figure out what systems we need to put in place to free up more time and space for the staff, and of course the entrepreneur leader here. So when you scale, the problem of scale is always systems. It doesn't matter what it is. Systems, processes are like money. It's the hard work. No one's getting laid because they created a system. It's not sexy. It's not cool. It isn't, but it makes money. So to go to those levels, you have to have solid systems, processes, and teams. So looking to expand the teams, looking to expand the businesses, and really elevate the online coaching and really elevate media. And if there's another opportunity to start another business that branches off into six figures, I'm all about it. Like dealing with these entrepreneurs, there's a lot of people operating at like high level. We'll just say multi-millions to 100 million annually, right? And those are, I've built some solid relationships, and there's opportunities in those groups because money travels in herds, right? Like if you think you're going to stand on the outside of money and like get you a piece of it without like advocates, you are fucking delusional. Like just like someone holds the keys to your future when it comes to getting you hired or whatever. I know it's cliche, but it's not what you know, it's who you know. So I believe in building relationships. I think that's the most important thing in any business. So you have to build quality relationships. And I just happen to be placed in a good position to meet some high quality entrepreneurs doing multi-millions to over 100 million. So I like to leverage those relationships, see where my skills can provide value to their systems, and we can team. I can take a piece of a business or collab or invest in the next opportunity to get to where I want to go, which is, I want to help as many people as possible. So I need money to get access to push my message out to more and more people, for advertisements, to get on podcasts, get more eyeballs. Like none of that shit's free. So the world out there thinks that there's just these entrepreneurs out there and these people making social media and that they're just so good at it. They just get access to these massive podcasts. In some cases, on the rare occasions, that's true. But most of these systems and podcasts and stuff are pay-to-play systems. So you want to get on, Joe Rogan, like either you're his homie or you write a check, right? That's it. Me and Joe aren't like homies, right? Just yet, Joe, but we'll get there, right? Get me on that fucking podcast. Like, you want to get on Oprah? Like, either Oprah likes you or you got to write a check, right? That's just the way the world works. So we use that to get our message out to see if we can help a broader range of people that could utilize my personal coaching or help them in their media and push out their message and get their product, their service, and their systems out to the world. Because like so many people that we know, there's nothing wrong with their product or service. It's just they're not getting the eyeballs that they deserve, right? So their message is literally, and their business is falling flat. I think it's our duty to teach them how to work around that problem the best we can.
And then if Thanos snapped his finger and you have to disappear today, like what's one piece of knowledge you want to drop to the young entrepreneur that out there that are grinding, trying to make it?
That's tough. I actually like Thanos. So the last thing, if I were going to leave, that I'd leave everybody is always seek out knowledge and then apply it. So don't learn just to learn, and don't apply pressure blindly, so that you can get better at it, see what works, what doesn't work, and then take a new theory and iterate through it. It's evolution, but evolution of your behaviors and knowledge over and over again. You do that faster than anybody else, you'll eventually get better than everybody else. So don't be afraid to fail. Failure is our greatest teacher. So fail often as possible. Avoid repeating the failures so that you can learn. Remember, we all crawled, and to start walking, we had to fall a lot. When we wanted to run, we had to fall a lot. Somewhere along the line of adulthood, we think we don't have to fail anymore to learn. You couldn't be wronger from the truth. So seek out failure on the regular, push the envelopes, your capabilities and skills, so you can break through to the next level. It's the only way that works.
Damn. And that's a wrap. Thank you.
Boom. Mic drop.